There's always two versions of this show. There's the show that we plan to do and the show that we trip into. Right now, what we're going to do, Miles, we're going to go through the 32 teams rapid fire, and we're going to do a yes-no. Do we think they would be interested? I may handle some of them because it's obvious, and I'll start with the AFC East. Bills, absolutely not. Jets, I can't imagine. Would they? Would they move Sam Darnold and say, come to town for a year, Ben Roethlisberger? I can't imagine the Jets would do that.
I can't either. That wouldn't seem to make sense. I mean, Robert Sala's his first year. They're not expected to be a Super Bowl contender. They're not a QB away from anything. I wouldn't say the Jets.
And he's going to have to want to go to a team where he thinks he can make a difference and pursue a championship and do to the Steelers what Tom Brady did to the Patriots. All right, Patriots. Speaking of the Patriots, need a quarterback. The Patriot way and Ben Roethlisberger do not seem to mesh in my mind.
No, but I think we might have said the same thing about Cam Newton, right?
And it didn't work. And now it's not Cam's fault. They didn't have any help around him. That's the reason for Ben to not want it. Ben's coming from this group of every guy they draft turns to gold. Every receiver, pick him round 2, round 7, round wherever, and he's great. And then you come up to the place where if you gave him 100 draft picks, they wouldn't find a good receiver. So I think he would be disinclined to join the Patriots from that perspective. Dolphins, could he be the new Fitz to Tua? I don't think he'd want that.
I don't think if I'm Tua, there's no way I would want that either. But I think the Dolphins are another place where it's kind of like, if your QB plays a little bit better, then that elevates you. But I don't know that Miami should be looking for that short-term solution rather than a long-term solution.
I wouldn't throw Tua overboard for Ben. There are other guys where I would say, like if I can get Deshaun Watson, sorry Tua, we love you, but we're taking Deshaun Watson. Russell Wilson, sorry Tua. But with Ben, I think you stick with Tua. All right, the Ravens, absolutely not. The Browns, absolutely not, although that would be fascinating to see him play for the team closest to where he grew up. The Bengals have Joe Burrow. Raiders, okay, this is a great test because the Raiders are always looking. Mike Mayock, the GM of the team, constantly says, we're always searching for an upgrade at every position. I wouldn't want Ben Roethlisberger over Derek Carr right now, would you?
No, I don't think that I would, because Derek Carr can get things done. I don't think Derek Carr was the main issue for the Raiders last season. I think that offense has to get better in the red zone, and I don't necessarily know that Ben Roethlisberger is going to be able to make you do that. Also, I mean, as we show the graphic now, like, look, their deep passing was another thing that the Raiders had problems with, whether it was, I don't know, the scheme or Derek Carr just didn't necessarily want to fire it down the field. He did a little bit more last year than he has in the past, but I don't know that Ben Roethlisberger would be the solution for the Raiders if you really want to upgrade. I don't see Roethlisberger as an upgraded Derek Carr at this point.
The best part about it, though, would be, given the overall size of Ben Roethlisberger, that he and Gruden could do like a ventriloquist dummy routine where Gruden could sit on his lap and pretend to be the wooden dummy and Ben could be the ventriloquist. That would be worth it right there. Chargers and Chiefs, absolutely not. They have their franchise guys. Sliding over to the NFC. We didn't mention Denver. Denver. We got to go Denver. Oh, and I forgot the AFC South. Sorry, it's easy to forget the AFC South. We've got the Denver Broncos. They've got Drew Lock, and they don't seem to be sold on Drew Lock. Again, they went for Peyton Manning and it worked for 5 years. Ben Roethlisberger's a 1 to 2 year fix. They weren't interested in Phillip Rivers last year. They still thought they had something in Drew Lock. Could you see the Broncos making that move?
This one I actually could see because I don't know that the Broncos are championship caliber, but I think going into next year, Vic Fangio is one of these guys that might be on the hot seat or at least should be thinking about, hey, how can I keep my job? He's got to win probably 7, 8, 9 games. They need to be over 500, especially because they also have a new general manager. So this is one where I could maybe see it, especially because, look, they've got guys like Noah Fant. They've got Cortland Sutton. They've got Jerry Jeudy. There are pieces there that maybe could make for a successful offense, Mike.
Yeah, but do you want to step into a division with the Chiefs and the Chargers, who I think are going to be a lot better this year as Justin Herbert develops? The path to the Super Bowl is a little bit rockier in that division. All right, I did skip over the South. Sorry, teams of the South. We talked about the Colts already, though. That's the only team in that division that jumps out to me. The Titans have Ryan Tannehill under contract. The Jaguars are most likely going to get Trevor Lawrence. I can't imagine them saying, let's put the possibility of getting a 10 to 15-year starter on hold for a one-year run with Ben Roethlisberger. And then the Texans. Now, that would be an interesting sitcom. Jack Easterby and Ben Roethlisberger. That would be fun, but I don't think either side would be interested there.
I'd love to see it, though. I really would. I mean, they get rid of Deshaun Watson and bring in Ben Roethlisberger. That's fun.
Yeah. It would be fun. If you're a Texans fan, there's another word that starts with F and U that you would be saying. All right. NFC East. Look, the Cowboys, we assume they're going to keep Dak Prescott. The Eagles, I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, they've got Jalen Hurts. They're talking about drafting a guy with the 6th overall pick. I don't think they're going to ride with Ben. How about Washington, though? They're looking. You covered the Panthers. You know Ron Rivera. You think Ron Rivera would be interested in a year with Ben?
I think that, like I said, Washington, I think would make sense, at least for a little bit. That 1 year, maybe they bring him in and then they also try to draft and develop another guy. I think that, especially as we were saying earlier, in that NFC East, they won it going 7-9 already. So I think if we see them have a QB who can maybe do a couple things, throw the ball down the field, if they get a good running game, that defense, I think, led by Chase Young, is good enough that they might be a quarterback away from really being a above 500 contending team as opposed to a below 500 contending team. I think Washington might make sense.
And if the path to the Super Bowl, the difficulty is what would be one of the factors for Ben. First of all, you get an easy path to win the division, relatively speaking, especially in comparison to some of the divisions we were talking about in the AFC. And look, the general consensus is all the best teams are in the AFC, the Super Bowl winners in the NFC. But they have a more top-heavy collection of great teams in the AFC. The Giants have Daniel Jones. I can't imagine them doing anything. Let's move to the NFC North. Packers and Lions have their guys for 2021. The Vikings have their guy. They're locked into Kirk Cousins. The Chicago Bears. One of the reasons that I've decided they should be interested in Carson Wentz is there really aren't a lot of other options out there. A year with Ben Roethlisberger to just try to see what they can do? You think the Bears should be or would be interested in that?
I think the Bears could be interested in that. I don't know if they should be. I don't know how much better he really makes them than Mitchell Trubisky, because at least Trubisky can kind of do some things with his legs and maybe make some plays a little bit. But they've got to make sure that they can continue to have Allen Robinson, too, who's going to be a free agent. I don't know if they want to franchise him or not, especially with the way the cap is going to be. But look, I think that that's another team that could make sense for Ben Roethlisberger. If I'm him, I might be interested in Chicago. If I'm Chicago, I don't know how interested I would be in Ben Roethlisberger.
See, that's the thing I keep coming back to. The name is not going to create the kind of instant sizzle that it would have a few years ago, that Phillip Rivers did last year, that Tom Brady did last year, that the prospect, this kind of vague prospect that maybe Drew Brees would go play for someone else. He's made it clear time and again he wouldn't. 3 years ago, I remember saying, hey, Vikings, instead of going after a guy like Kirk Cousins, just go get Drew Brees. He's out there. He's a free agent. Make him an offer. Whatever you'd pay Cousins, offer to Brees. But Brees had never been a guy, and clearly at this point he's retiring. But the sizzle that was there with other guys, it's just not there for me with Ben. NFC South, we talked about the Saints briefly. Buccaneers have Tom Brady. Atlanta Falcons have a ton of money invested in Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. It looks like they're not moving on from them, and they're going to be in a cap nightmare as well. The Panthers have been trying to find an upgrade at quarterback, and who knows what they may be plotting. Are they plotting a run at Deshaun Watson? Are they thinking about making a run at Russell Wilson? Could they maybe try to get the first overall pick in the draft? If all those things fail, are they a team? That maybe would say, hey, we want a great quarterback. We'll take a year with Ben if we can get it?
That'd be interesting. I mean, I think that Matt Rule could maybe go for Ben Roethlisberger. I think it would be an upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater. The issue, I think, would be then what's next. I mean, you have to be able to get somebody behind him and say, all right, this is our plan for the future. Because, I mean, I know Matt Rule's got a really long contract that's also very lucrative, but at the same time, you have to have a really clear plan, I think, for what the QB position is going to be in the future. Although the other thing there is that David Tepper used to be a Steelers minority owner. So, I mean, maybe there's that connection that would bring those two together. And I don't know, maybe that could, result in a marriage for a year or another 2 years, perhaps. But I don't know how much of an upgrade he would be over Teddy Bridgewater, but I think he would be at least somewhat of an upgrade over him.
It's also possible that Tepper spent enough time behind the curtain to say, no, thank you. We're good. We're good. We'll go with Will Grier. Thank you very much. NFC West, where the two teams that Ben beat for Super Bowl championships reside, the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Obviously, the Cardinals have Kyler Murray. The Seahawks have Russell Wilson. I can't imagine them moving Russell Wilson to have a one-year stint with Ben Roethlisberger. The Rams are Stafford. The only team there worth even discussing would be the 49ers. But to the extent that Kyle Shanahan wants basically a robot at quarterback who runs the offense exactly the way he wants, does exactly what he thinks, and just submits fully to the coach's authority, I don't think Ben's going to be doing that. Although, if you are Ben and you're looking at the teams in the NFC, one that would stand out would be the 49ers when you consider the talent that they have. So I could see him being interested in them. I have a hard time thinking they'd be interested in him, Miles.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that they would be very interested in him. I don't know how much of an upgrade he would be over Jimmy Garoppolo, other than the fact that Ben Roethlisberger starts a bunch of games. Jimmy Garoppolo's big problem is that he just can't really stay healthy. And, he goes out there, and I think he knows how to run the offense pretty well in Garoppolo. But, yeah, I wouldn't understand why the 49ers would have any interest in Ben Roethlisberger.
Last year, Tom Brady wanted to play for the 49ers, and the 49ers evaluated and said no thank you. Now, there may be a certain amount of regret they're feeling, given that Tom Brady won the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, but I don't think that regret manifests itself in, hey, we have an opportunity to get a guy who's even younger than Brady was. Let's take him instead. I still don't think they're going to keep Garoppolo, but I don't think Ben Roethlisberger is the alternative that they find. The other issue is, if he's available, what kind of money is he going to be looking for, especially in a year where the cap is depressed? Last year, when it was Rivers, Breeze, and Brady, all free agents, they all got $25 million for last year. And I think if Ben is available and somebody is interested in him, I don't think it's going to be at $25 million. I think it's going to be at more like $15 million. He's due to make $19 this year. And he said, I don't care about what I make this year. But I just, it's easy to say it. I don't care about my pay at all this year. That's easy to say. It's harder to sign the contract. That's the thing. And I really do believe at some level there's a disconnect between what he wants and what he says. Look, he's only going to go through this one time in his life. There's no playbook. There's no magic sheet of answers that you rattle off. And you're processing all of your emotions at a time when you're making these comments and saying these things. And if he leaves the Steelers, he doesn't want the perception to be that he wanted too much money. He doesn't want to be the bad guy. You could still make a decent amount of money over the course. Not that he needs it, but we've seen Steelers players kind of hang around and be beloved and have opportunities. And you get money for nothing. You go golfing for free. You're still part of the club. If you're perceived as being greedy on your way out the door, maybe you won't be. So I'd like to attach Ben Roethlisberger to a lie detector test, and I want. Do you really want to play, and do you really want to play for the Steelers, or are you just looking for a graceful way out? And at some level, I feel like that may be the truth here.
Yeah, anytime somebody says, I don't really care what I make, I don't believe them. I just, frankly, I just don't. I never do. Because everybody cares what they make. They do. And if you could be Jeff Bezos or you could be anybody, making minimum wage, you care about how much money you make. And so from that perspective, I get that Ben Roethlisberger is probably trying to be graceful as he goes out. Because, yes, he has made a lot of money as the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But saying, I don't care what I make this year. Yes, you do. I'm sorry, you do. Everybody does. And that's fine. I think that that's a human thing. It's a normal thing to care about how much money you make. But if that's going to be the case where you need to restructure, then there's got to be, I guess, some sort of bar to say, this is what I'm willing to pay for. Because at that play for, I should say, because at that point, there's got to be some sort of line drawn at anywhere, because you can't just say, I don't really care. Yes, you do. Everybody cares. And there's already a baseline of what you're going to make already. So from that perspective, yeah, he could be trying to find a graceful way out, but saying, I don't care what I make, it doesn't ring true to me. I'd like that lie detector test too, Mike.
Here's the other side of it, Miles, and we talked about this last year as it related to Phillip Rivers getting $25 million from the Colts, because when you look, Breeze, Brady, Rivers all getting 25, who doesn't belong and why? It's Rivers. But the locker room pays attention. How much respect is the rest of the team going to have for the guy who walks through the door making peanuts? Now, it worked for the Patriots with Cam Newton. He walked through the door making peanuts, but the circumstances were very different, and he's Cam Newton. There's something about Cam Newton that even if he is making minimum wage, when he walks into the locker room, the jaws are going to drop for the players who are in there. I don't know that, if Ben shows up making the league minimum, he's going to have that same impact, and I agree with you. Just because he says, I don't care what I make, that doesn't mean anything. If anything, he does care what he makes. He's just trying to make it look like he's not being greedy in Pittsburgh because he doesn't want to be viewed as the bad guy. He has been viewed as the bad guy. When he went through the stuff in Georgia in 2010, I remember listening to talk radio from Pittsburgh for a few days just to get an idea of what they were saying. And it was as bad as I've ever heard a team talk about its starting quarterback, or the fans of a team talk about its starting quarterback. It's amazing how he's got his redemption. I don't think he wants to blow that on his way out the door, and I think that's why he said the things he said, and I think that's why he's acting like he wants to play. And also, if he would retire, technically he would owe the Steelers $12 million, and I don't know that they would or wouldn't try to get some of that back, but maybe the answer is we just agree to go our separate ways, and you don't owe us any money, and we're going to move forward with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins or whoever else we may happen to acquire this offseason. All right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.